Greetings adventurers, this is Lorne, your guild advisor, and welcome back to this week's installment of Cuts and Changes for DanMachi 4, where I highlight the differences between the original light novel source and the anime adaptation, as well as provide additional context for what you see in the show. Episode 6 is very unique when it comes to how it adapts to light novels. Content that was previously skipped has been rearranged to fit into this episode, along with a blend of original content, as the episode mainly serves as a breather and a bridge between the arcs of Volume 12 and 13. As always, there are still some scenes and characters that can be expanded upon to enrich your understanding of the series. So, let's get started with the breakdown. To begin the episode, we are immediately brought to Floor 18 in the adventurer-made town of Rivera, also known as a safe zone that makes up an entire floor in the dungeon. Belle and Lily reflect a little on the expedition, and Lily makes plans to spend some one-on-one time with Belle later in the day. Just like this scene, a good majority of the scenes you see Belle spend with the expedition party members is anime original, as the actual page count this episode adapts is very short, not including the content that was rearranged from earlier in the novel to fit this episode. Speaking of rearranged content, we finally get to see the Denatus where Chigusa, Welf, and most notably Belle, received their new adventurer titles. Previously, I gave a short summary on the main points from the Denatus for the episode 1 Cuts and Changes video, but since episode 6 actually covers it, I will expand upon a few things. I do find it humorous that Miyake and Take explain what the Denatus is, because this is actually the first time the anime has shown a Denatus. The first one in terms of when the series started happened in Season 1, which is when Belle got his little rookie title. The anime skipped on showing the actual events of that Denatus, and we were only left with the result of Belle's title. Right before the meeting formally starts, a few of the gods note that the events of Season 3 regarding Icarus Familia and the Xenos caused the Denatus to be delayed, which is why it's happening later than usual. In the novels, Hestia makes note that Ganesha, the MC the Denatus meeting, carefully makes sure to avoid any discussion regarding the Xenos. Keep in mind that Ganesha is one of the few gods that know about the existence of Xenos, and is trying to make sure they remain a secret. It's likely that this observation from Hestia is not in the anime, as it would be odd to include it 6 episodes after the end of the Xenos arc. In the anime, you'll see that Hestia and Hephaestus already know that the expedition party made it back to Floor 18 safely. Since this Denatus originally happened before the expedition started in the novels, you may be curious in how word on the party status already got to the surface. It's very likely that an adventurer on Floor 18 rushed back up to the surface to report on the party status when they made it to Rivera after dealing with the Maz Huge. It's not unusual for dungeon parties to pay for a messenger to go up to the surface when special circumstances occur in the dungeon. Dormal and Lewis's familiars were likely informed as well. The anime does a pretty good job at showcasing just how hectic naming ceremonies can be, as you can see the deities fooling around suggesting whatever name amuses them. Welf receives the name Ignis, meaning never cold in the anime subtitles, or ever burning with the light novel translation. You'll notice that Hephaestus is actually shivering on the side in the anime. This is a reference to Hephaestus being a bit embarrassed as Welf actually confessed his love for her in Volume 8, a scene skipped in Season 2 which I've mentioned in previous videos. I was hoping that the anime would finally animate that scene via flashback in this episode, but it's possible they'll do it later. The main reason I wanted it animated is due to the fact that Welf's confession is a source of motivation for something later in the story. I hope this just means they'll reference it when the story is closer to the scene in question. Chigusa receives the title Gion Bird, also known as Lovebird. The god suggested this after stating that Chigusa seemed like she would make a good wife. I'm not sure why the anime skipped it, but it's possible they'll reveal the name to Chigusa later in the show. Belle's new title is obviously the highlight for the gods, and they have a lot of fun with it, including Freya and Loki. Eventually he ends up with the name Rabbitfoot, or Rabbit's Foot, in the HiDive subtitles. As I mentioned before, the light novel and mobile game have already translated this as Rabbitfoot without the apostrophe s, as that is also what you hear the characters say out loud. If you translate the kanji used for Belle's title, Rabbit's Foot is actually an acceptable translation, but the main problem, like with a lot of DanMachi related terms and names, is that it breaks consistency with previous translations, making it somewhat confusing for fans of the series. Can we please just settle on one? Belle and Lily check up on Lubis and Dormal when originally the entire expedition crew is present for the scene. The party is likely spread out, so the anime original events play out a bit more naturally. The anime adds some original lines by having Dormal and Lubis praising Lily for the speech she made in the dungeon, which is a nice touch to highlight Lily's personal growth. Once again, the anime is making Lubis and Dormal much more likable characters to me. Belle's exchange with Oka and Chigusa is also anime original, but it does a good job of showcasing how Belle is growing into the role of a leader when you see him reassure Oka and Chigusa that a party is meant to cover for each other's mistakes. As part of foreshadowing hinting at the cliffhanger of the episode, we are taken into a scene at the pub with the waitresses. Ryu seems to have disappeared and left behind a note. Chloe suspects that Ryu's past may be involved in her disappearance. In the novels, Chloe's a bit more specific regarding Ryu, making note that Ryu has been forced to do work dirtier than cleaning the sewers before. There's also a bit of playful banter between Chloe, Anya, and Runa that was cut as they tried to lift the mood seeing that Seer seemed to be gloomy. All in all, the scene does what it needs to do by teasing that something is amiss with Ryu. The scene with Daphne and Cassandra is anime original, but I did find it funny when Lily mentioned that Belle was being used as a coupon. It's also nice to see that the merchant remembers that Belle helped against the Black Goliath. I liked how casual and buddy-buddy Daphne was with Belle, as I sometimes feel that she's an underrated character. Cassandra thanking Belle for making sure the fears from her vision did not come true was also a nice addition. We are then treated to an anime original scene of Belle conversing with Mikoto and Haruhime. Mikoto does her best to be Haruhime's wingman, or I guess wingwoman in this case, and they ask Belle what happened after they got separated in the dungeon. Belle decides to hold off on telling them about Mari, most likely out of respect for Mari's wishes, seeing that she did her best to avoid being spotted by the group after Belle defeated the Moss Huge. Belle ends up humoring Welf, Aisha, Bors, and some other adventurers and accompanies them to a tavern. This is also an anime original, but somewhat of a reference to a scene in Volume 12's epilogue, where they planned on having a celebration after making it back out alive during their expedition. Belle is told his new title, and Aisha is totally wasted at getting all up in Belle's business. I did chuckle at the rabbit's wood line. Lily decides she's seen enough and seems to unleash a Marlboro stink bomb in the tavern. You might remember her using this in Season 1 to repel monsters away due to its smell. Lily and Belle have a nice conversation which actually includes a lot of dialogue that was previously skipped in Episode 2, where Lily's fears about Belle changing are swept away. Rearranging the conversation to this episode also has the added benefit of Belle being able to ask about the speech Lily made, making for a cute moment as Lily is too embarrassed to share the details. It very much seems as if this episode was partly made to help highlight Lily's growth as a character, which is very appropriate given her development as a strategist, and that she's prominently featured on the cover of Volume 12. The anime then shows an ominous scene between an injured adventurer and Ryu with a serious glare in her eyes. The light novel actually does not show this scene in real time, so it was interesting to see it animated. However, one downside to doing all this foreshadowing with Ryu is that it weakens the strength of the cliffhanger at the end of the episode. There, we have an adventurer claim that Ryu, the Gale Wind, murdered the adventurer in question, with Belle clearly being in disbelief. Originally, Ryu is not even mentioned in Volume 12 until the murder accusation. The scene with the waitresses at the pub is actually from the very beginning of Volume 13, so a few events of the novels were rearranged to build up to the anime reveal of the accusation. Personally, I like the way the novels handled the cliffhanger more, since it was a sudden reveal with no obvious foreshadowing, but since that was my first exposure to the scene, I am biased. I'm curious on how an anime-only viewer felt about the foreshadowing towards the reveal at the end with Ryu. Was it too obvious? Would it have been more effective to not tease it at all and just have the cliffhanger? Also, Belle's final line in the episode, that Ryu would never murder someone, is a tiny bit strange. Firstly, it's an anime original line, obviously meant to evoke Belle's disbelief, but remember back in Season 1, Ryu told Belle that she did everything she could to wipe out the familia that was responsible for the deaths of her own. It's very weird that Belle believes that Ryu does not have the capacity to kill another person as far as the anime is concerned. An odd choice of line for sure. Overall, Episode 6 is an episode designed to be the calm before the storm. A quick breather to lighten the mood from the events of the past few episodes as we prepare to head into the next tension-filled arc. I believe the episode accomplishes this very well with its blend of rearranged events and original content. I just hope that Welf skipped scenes from previous seasons come back as flashbacks, similar to how this season has been handling previously skipped content. In terms of danmemo, this week's mobile game anime side story features Aina as she reflects on Belle's journey as an adventurer. For those without access to the game, you can view it with the link provided in the description. Also, word on the grapevine is that we should be getting a new key visual for Season 4 as well as new visuals for the OP as we head into a new arc, so keep an eye out for that. I'm very excited to see it myself. Next episode we'll be diving into the start of my favorite arc of the entire series, so prepare to enjoy the ride. If you found this video informative, please give it a like, and if you want to see more DanMachi content, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to follow me on my socials, and this is Lorne, your guild advisor, signing out.